For almost a century, Celtic and Rangers ruled the roost both on and off the pitch. But Scottish football and the violence that came with it was about to be transformed. I headed north out of Glasgow and 130 miles up the east coast of Scotland to the city that dared to stand up to the old firm. In the 1980s, Aberdeen, more famous for farming than football, broke the old firm's dominance. They became kings of Scottish football, guided by the now legendary Sir Alex Ferguson.
Fergie came up to us from St Mirren and took the bull by the horns and continued it to the greatest heights that we could have ever imagined.
Aberdonians turned out in their thousands to welcome home Britain's team of the season. It's been a fortnight of heroics and hangovers in the Granite City.
It was phenomenal to actually be a dominant force and actually be confident of going and beating on a regular basis Rangers and Celtic away was just heaven.
Aberdeen was Britain's boomtown. In the 1970s, when North Sea oil was discovered offshore, it became the centre of Britain's new oil industry and one of the wealthiest cities in Britain. No longer a Scottish outpost, Aberdeen was the place to be. And her vibrant, exciting and confident football team reflected the mood of the city.
People were talking about Aberdeen on the park and we wanted them to talk about Aberdeen off the park as well.
And talk about them off it they would. As the team gained a reputation for great football, a section of their fans became famous for less glorious reasons. You may not think it to look at him today, but this man, Jay Allen, was one of the leading faces of Aberdeen's firm until he retired in 1986. As a teenager, he'd become fascinated by the violence he saw at football.
As a young supporter, I was intrigued and excited when there was trouble, but only got close enough to it until it really came on top, and then I would run away with the rest of the youngsters. I think I was sort of 17 the first time, actually I didn't run away and just steamed right in and realised that it was great.
Buoyed by the success of their team, Aberdeen had a growing army of young fans who wanted to stand out from the other football mobs of scarf wearers, skins and bother boots. And the inspiration came when they travelled to Liverpool for a European Cup game and caught a glimpse of what the opposition fans were wearing.
So looking across the fence, there was maybe 300 young men, no scarves, side shades, and looked like new romantic disco boys, and which we just totally didn't understand. We never heard of this before. But I think a lot of us strangely thought, that's pretty cool.
The Aberdeen Soccer Casuals were born, Scotland's first casual hooligan firm. Here I am, sunny Aberdeen. Beautiful, it is absolutely beautiful. I think it's the furthest north I've ever been in my life, and it is absolutely taters. But I'm here to meet up with some of the original members of one of Britain's first casual firms. This is Bob Carmichael, Aberdeen born and bred, oil rig worker, and a member of the ASC for the past 20 years. So, you used to mob up, how many of yous?
Probably, you're talking like 400, 500. But at a home game, you could end up sitting in that south stand with 1,000.
That's a good firm, isn't it?
Oh, aye.
Do you reckon it had anything to do with the team at the time, the success the team was?
Oh, aye, that was a major play in it. The clothes started changing, and then that made a difference. The guys were standing out. There was no football colours on or anything like that. Folk were trying to put on tracksuits and designer gear and golf wear, tennis wear and stuff like that. And then the oil industry was booming then. So people had money, and the kids had money from the parents who were working offshore and that. So everybody had the gear. And
so that's why everyone could run about and it wasn't snide, none of the gear, was it? Obviously in the 80s. So it was all proper gear.
But the thing is, we were the only ones that were doing it. We were going to, other teams were coming to this ground and they were still dressed as skinheads. They were still dressed as punks, and people were like, who's that crowd there,
Okay, so it's always nice to have a tear up with a nice bit of clobber on, you know what I mean? It was the 1980s, and football violence in England and Aberdeen came wearing a designer label, but the rest of Scotland was lagging behind. At other clubs such as Motherwell, the hooligan element was still into the traditional skinhead bother boy look. Ex-Motherwell mob member Matt Johnson was one of them, and he didn't think the casuals looked up to much.
You're all big tough skinheads, you know. We looked at these guys with big wedge haircuts and tight jeans, big white trainers, and we just says to ourselves, who are these puffs? We expected they would run, you know. The puffs were going to run. No, they fought back and they done well. So that was our first experience of the casuals.
Not only could they fight, they could get away with it. Casual was a camouflage.
You basically couldn't move in Motherwell for police if you were a skinhead. They would stop you for no reason, search you for no reason. Now, that was about the time when everybody started saying to themselves, wait a minute, these guys are getting away with murder, solely because of the way they dressed.
And so Motherwell decided to go casual too.
They were the first, after us, to turn trendy and actually arrive in Aberdeen station dressed. So, you know, that was quite exciting for us. We finally had another mob that were dressers and like-minded.
Soon everyone was doing it. All the club firms decided to dress up for the ruck.
You just couldn't believe how quickly things evolved and how many people actually jumped on the bandwagon kind of thing. And almost overnight, it became like an obsession.
All the boys in Scotland wanted to get hold of the top designer gear, the best labels, the latest designs. So in order for them to look top dog north of the border, they had to go down south to London, where the streets ain't quite paved with gold, but the shops are filled with treasure.
It was taken very seriously and a lot of money was spent on clothes.
For working class guys to shell out maybe about half their wages on a tracksuit top was unbelievable. And it just went beyond all proportion.
A lot of the boys used to write letters into the face, slagging off the other teams for not being up to speed with the fashion.
Scotland was now a casual battleground, and the police were caught cold by the new design of violence.
It did catch us unawares at the time. Quarter of a century ago, we did not have the sophistication in terms of intelligence, which we do now. I think now we're better placed to combat these type of organised hooligan groups than we were in the 1980s.
It took them years to get in control of it. That's why the early years were so much fun, because they didn't have a clue what we were all about.
The new breed of soccer hooligans, calling themselves the Casuals, pose a threat to the game.
The media had a story. The casuals had inherited the mantle of the mods and rockers of the 60s and the skinheads of the 70s. The Scottish newspapers went casual crazy. In 1985, Andy Colvin was a young journalist at the Sunday Post newspaper in Scotland. The newspaper wanted the casual exclusive, and so he was told he was going undercover.
I travelled up to Aberdeen on the train, got in there, got their trust, and my cover story going up to Aberdeen with a Glaswegian accent was that I worked on the oil rigs and I was back home, but I was up for a fight if there was a fight on the go. And the only stipulation they made was, when the fight starts, you cannot turn and run, otherwise we will turn on you. Nobody understood how well structured casuals were. Football hooligans up to then had been people running wild after a game, fueled by drink, and they didn't care who got caught in the middle or anything else. The casuals picked their targets carefully. It was other casuals, it was people they'd arranged to fight. It was all about dominating the town that they'd gone into.
Andy tried to keep on the fringes of the mob and away from the front line action as much as he could.
The whole kind of brief was, don't break the law. You know, try not to break the law. Because the paper I worked for at the time, I think they would regard it as worse if I'd been jailed than if I'd been killed. So if I knew it was going to happen, then I let the police know. And we did manage to stop a fight that would have taken place in Motherwell, that was pre-arranged, and I think would have been very violent.
Andy spent 9 months risking life and limb undercover as a football hooligan. His incredible story hit the papers and his cover was blown.
By the time I'd finished doing this, I had 2 drawers in my desk, one full of death threats and one full of letters from casual groups asking me to go and join them. We created the monster. We gave these people publicity, and the more publicity they got, the more they wanted.